Hello, welcome back to another FPL video. I hope everybody is doing very well. We are currently in the middle of game week 16 with only the Newcastle vs Liverpool game left to go. And I mean, what a game week 16 has been. Kind of a summing up of 2020. Today we're going to be mainly looking at Manchester City assets and what to do with them. If you're new around here, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Get so close to 200, hoping to hit that by New Year's. If you like the video, don't forget to hit that like button. Without further ado, let's go straight into this one. So what has happened? Well, the Everton vs Man City game was postponed after a fair few Man City players were tested positive. There were some talks about an inquiry going on, as many people believe that Manchester City were just kind of like trying to get the game postponed as they didn't have Kevin De Bruyne. So, you know, obviously Pep wouldn't want to go into that game without De Bruyne, but they did have the likes of De Bruyne, Sterling, Cancelo, Walker, and a lot of other players who apparently have tested positive. So I think it's fair enough that that game was postponed. But yeah, that game was postponed against Everton, and it's looking likely that the Chelsea game will also be postponed as well. So what do we do with the Manchester City assets that a lot of us do own? And I mean, also, what do we do with the Chelsea assets? I'll take a quick look at the Chelsea assets, but I'm mainly going to focus on the Man City assets for the coming game week 17. So the three most highly owned Manchester City players are Kevin De Bruyne, João Cancelo, and Ruben Dias, sitting at pretty premium prices in their respective positions. Now, obviously, Cancelo and Dias are, I think, about 7% owned, but their live ownership is actually much higher, and Kevin De Bruyne's ownership is about 20%. Obviously, all of these guys, as I said, are very premium options, and it depends really what to do with them on whether you have one free transfer, whether you're willing to take a -4. If you have two free transfers, I know a lot of people who say have triple Man City, even all three of these guys, or potentially have a double up in defence, have De Bruyne and one of these players, or even someone like De Bruyne, Sterling, and so on and so on. So what do we do with these assets, and how do we move them around with the transfers that we've got? So the first option that I'm going to be discussing is Kevin De Bruyne, sitting there at 11.7 million and 20% owned. Now, the kind of players that I've chosen are based on the fact that you haven't picked either of Salah, either of Fernandes, and either of Son. If you don't have one of those guys, then I think it's a very easy transfer to go from Kevin De Bruyne to one of those players. Son is one I'm humming and hawing about, but for me, the price I got him in at and how he looks going forward, I mean, it's definitely a keeper for me for a long time. You know, even though his expected goals aren't great, when he gets in front of goal, he does score, so I still think Son is a good option. So the two main players that I'd be looking at in terms of bringing in for Kevin De Bruyne, and one of them I actually did myself, and the other one I was very, very close to, are Mane and Marcus Rashford. Now, with Mane, you will need an extra 0.2 million to go up to him from Kevin De Bruyne. However, he does look like a very, very good option. He's got Southampton away coming up next. Typically, Mane is a lot better away from home than he is at home, and just generally the double game week as well going forward. Manchester United at home and Burnley at home look like very, very nice fixtures for Liverpool, and it's a nice little transfer. You know, you get out a player in Kevin De Bruyne who hasn't actually been returning very well. I took him out before this whole COVID thing because he just wasn't returning well enough. Now, obviously, that he is likely to have a fixture postponement, even more reason to get rid of him, and I do it soon because his price is likely to go down again in the next couple of days. So De Bruyne out for Mane looks like a pretty decent option there. Now, onto Marcus Rashford, who you'd basically be saving yourself 2 million or 2.4 million if you went for Rashford over Mane, and that's like that. It would allow you 2.2 million in the bank as well from De Bruyne to allow you to do things elsewhere. It's the move that I went with because it allowed me to get Vardy up front. Marcus Rashford on a very, very similar points tally as well to Mane this season looks like a very, very good option, especially when he's playing on that right wing for Manchester United. He looks very dangerous. Bruno Fernandes is always pinging the balls in Bruno Fernandes is always pinging the balls in behind, and a lot of Marcus Rashford's goals have come from Bruno Fernandes' assists. So if you have Bruno and Rashford, you can kind of get that differential where you get the assist and goal for both of them. Also, how Rashford did not get a penalty yesterday, I do not know, but a 9.5 million out of the kind of premium assets that are left. You know, I've mentioned that Son, Salah, Fernandes obviously go above having these two, but out of the premium assets that are left, I think these two look the best, and I would sway towards Rashford as it gives you a little bit more money to do things elsewhere, and he's very much keeping up with Mane on the points tally. So moving on to the defenders, Cancelo and Dias. Cancelo sitting at 5.6 and Dias sitting at 5.7. As they're so similar in price, I thought I'd just put the two together and talking about them at the same time. I know some people do actually have the double ups, so you could potentially swap both of them for the options that I'm going to mention. Now the players that I potentially bring in for these guys, I put in Andy Robertson in there as a kind of more premium option. Obviously, if you only have one of them, you need a little bit of money in the bank to go towards Andy Robertson. But with, you know, the likes of Chilwell and Zuma unlikely to be playing in the coming game week as well, I don't think it's a very good idea to be bringing those guys in. So I think Robertson at the minute looks like a very good kind of premium asset. He's getting assists. He's nabbed, I think, a goal or two this season. Liverpool look okay at the back. Very likely that they'll keep a clean sheet against Southampton. I will say, you know, without Van Dijk there, without Gomez there, they are a little bit more leaky. But Robertson most likely is going to be given a rest against Newcastle tonight, so he'll be fully fit, ready to play against Southampton. And when you watch, he's a great player to own, to watch, because when you see him bombing down that wing, I mean, it's something to behold. He's very likely to pick up more attacking returns this season, and if Liverpool can pick up their clean sheet run like they did in a similar sort of time last season, then, you know, that's where you can haul points in from the likes of Robertson, because you get assists plus clean sheet and then 3 bonus points in 12 points a game week. I mean, you're absolutely loving it. But then the other two options here, we have 2 cheaper options. Now obviously Soufal did just get rested against Southampton. There's nothing particularly I'm worried about. I've got him in my team as well, but I'm not worried about it at all. He just had a newborn baby. He played a few days beforehand, and it's been pretty tight, tough fixtures. So I think Soufal, he is going to be the first choice right back for West Ham. However, they just decided they'd give him a break, but he will definitely be playing in the Everton game, I do believe. And at 4.7 million, allows you, you know, with both Cancelo and Diaz, saves you about $1 million on those guys. So you'll be able to do things elsewhere, and just looks like a pretty good option going forward as well. He's picked up 3 assists in the time that he's been there at West Ham. He hasn't actually played nowhere near as many games as the rest of the defenders, and is still on about 47 odd points, and that'd be a lot higher if he had actually played all of the games. And he hasn't played all the games, by the way, because he just hadn't been signed. He's only missed 1 game, the previous one, where he would have got a clean sheet. So if you kind of tally the points that he could have got up, he could be very well contending with the likes of Robertson and Dallas for the highest kind of total points for a defender. And also, a thing to mention, he has an absolutely wonderful double game week. He's only got 5% ownership, I think, which I was quite surprised at how low that is, considering a lot of people are planning for the double game week. Soufal looks like a great option for them as well, so definitely I'd think about bringing him. And then finally, my main man Stuart Dallas just picked up 12 points against West Brom for getting an assist, and I don't know how he got all 3 bonus points when Alioski scored a goal as well, but hey ho, I'll take it. At 4.8 million, and very likely soon to rise in price. Get your hands on Dallas as soon as possible, because although Leeds, you know, they do look a little bit leaky at the back in games like that when they're playing against the likes of West Brom, Newcastle, so on, they're going to batter these teams. He's likely to pick up some kind of attacking return, and if he gets the attacking return and clean sheet, he gets so many points, to a point where he's actually contending with Robertson right now for that kind of top defender spot. So value for money, I think Dallas looks great, and not only does he have not too bad fixtures coming up, but he also has an absolutely sublime double game week against Southampton and Brighton. Either one of those he could keep a clean sheet, and either one of those he could get an attacking return as well. So one thing to quickly mention before I wrap up the video. So one thing to mention quickly before I wrap up the video, actually 2 things. Firstly, with the Chelsea players, as I said I would discuss, most likely a few of you are going to be owning the likes of Chilwell, the likes of Reece James, the likes of Kurt Zuma. Obviously, they're not going to be playing if the Manchester City game does get postponed. So I kind of take what I said about the Manchester City defenders and apply that to the Chelsea defenders as well. I very much doubt many of you will hold many of the Chelsea attackers. Maybe Timo Werner, so you could potentially look at the likes of Martial, even Vardy if you've got the money to upgrade to, but I doubt many of you actually do own Timo Werner. And another thing to be said is that the Fulham against Spurs game has just been postponed today. Filming this obviously just before the Newcastle versus Liverpool game. It's a shame to see the Spurs game postponed as well, but it was on the Fulham side of things, so Spurs will most likely play their game against Leeds, so I wouldn't be snapping out Spurs players as a kind of, you know, a lot of people. It is quite rage inducing when you see all these players, you know, not playing, but Spurs will most likely play, so I'd hold off on transferring any of those assets out. But Fulham, if you do hold any of the Fulham assets, maybe Lookman, maybe Dequad over Reed, I know those guys they're still quite lowly owned, but probably the higher owned of the Fulham players, then you probably want to look at taking those guys out as well, as they have a pretty torrid double game week as well. If you have enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Getting so close to the 200 mark just before New Year's. Hit the like button if you do enjoy the video. Obviously, good luck for the coming game weeks. Obviously, with COVID and everything that's going on, the injuries, you just really don't know what's going to happen. So one thing I will say is make sure you have a strong bench, or at least a playing bench. Good luck, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.